Okay, so for Act 4, Scene 3, this is up in Juliet's room, and the nurse and Juliet come walking in. They just left Lord Capulet downstairs. And Juliet says, "Aye, those attires are best, but gentle nurse, I pray thee, leave me to myself tonight, for I have need of many orisons to move the heavens to smile upon my state, which, well thou knowest, is cross and full of sin." So, what she's talking about there, if you remember, Juliet is supposed to get rid of the nurse. She's supposed to be in her bedroom by herself the night before the wedding because she's supposed to take the potion that Friar gave her. And remember, that potion is supposed to keep Juliet knocked out cold, almost as if she is dead. She's going to look dead to everyone for 2 and 40 hours, 42 hours. And this is Tuesday night when she's taking it, even though technically she wasn't supposed to take it till Wednesday night because the wedding was supposed to be on Thursday. Now that Juliet's father moved it up 24 hours, moved it to Wednesday, she's going to have to take that potion tonight. So, what she's saying here to get rid of the nurse is saying, I need to ask forgiveness from the heavens. I need to pray so that they can forgive me for my sin. And the nurse knows that she's most likely talking about two different sins. One of them is dishonoring her mother and father, going against what they wanted. But the other one, as the nurse knows, is that she's already married to someone. She's married to Romeo, and now she's supposed to be married again. So she's like, I need to be left alone so I can pray on this. Then Lady Capulet comes in, so Juliet has to stop talking about that. And Lady Capulet says, What, are you busy, ho? Remember, not calling her daughter a name. Need you my help? No, madam, we have called such necessaries as are behoval of our state tomorrow. So please you, let me now be left alone, and let the nurse this night sit up with you, for I am sure you have your hands full all in this so sudden business. Once again, Juliet is trying to get rid of the nurse, making sure that she's left alone so she can take the potion. So this time she says, let the nurse stay up with you because I'm sure you're going to be all busy with these plans since this is happening so suddenly. Lady Capulet, since we know basically her relationship with Juliet is not very good, we could argue that she's probably relieved to hear Juliet say this. So she just says, Good night, get thee to bed and rest, for thou hast need. And she and the nurse leave. Now, Juliet goes into a pretty long speech here. It might be her longest speech of the play. It's one of them anyway. And she goes through several different layers of an emotion. She starts out with, Farewell, God knows when we shall meet again. I have a faint cold fear thrills through my veins that almost freezes up the heat of life. I'll call them back again to comfort me. Nurse! What should she do here? My dismal scene I needs must act alone. So this first section, she starts talking about how scared she is. She's afraid that things are not going to work out the way that the plan that Friar has said. And she's never had to go through anything like this before on her own. I mean, obviously, she's not 14 years old yet, but she's always had the nurse with her. So at first she thinks, I'm going to call the nurse, and even yells nurse. But then she pauses and said, well, what's she going to do here? This is something I'm going to have to do alone. So then on line 20, you can see she says, come vial. So she would have picked up that vial of potion. And then she starts questioning it. What if this mixture do not work at all? Shall I be married then tomorrow morning? No, no, this shall forbid it. Lie thou there. And she picks up a dagger and lays it next to her, basically saying, if this potion doesn't work, then this dagger is going to have to take care of things for me. Then she starts thinking of other things that starts to frighten her. She starts with, what if it be a poison, which the friar subtly hath ministered to have me dead, lest in this marriage he should be dishonored, because he married me before to Romeo. I fear it is, and yet methinks it should not, for he hath still been tried a holy man. So she's thinking at this point, okay, the friar has already married me to somebody and is now going to marry me again, and that could cause him a lot of problems if people find out about it. So what if the friar gave me a poison instead just to have me die, so at that point he doesn't have to worry about it anymore? At first she says, I'm kind of afraid that might be it, but I don't think the friar would do that, because up until now he's been a holy man and he's always tried to do the right thing. So in line 30, she comes up with a different problem. How if, when I am laid into the tomb, I wake before the time that Romeo come to redeem me? There's a fearful point. Shall I not then be stifled in the vault, to whose foul mouth no healthsome air breathes in, and there die strangled ere my Romeo comes? So she knows that this potion is supposed to really make her breath seem shallow. She'll barely be breathing, so she won't be using up much air. But now she's afraid, what happens if I wake up and Romeo's not there yet? Once again, she's taking this potion a full 24 hours earlier than what the original plan was. So she's afraid she's going to wake up and the vault is all going to be sealed and she'll just run out of air. She can't breathe in there anymore. The next issue that she has is, or if I live, is it not very like the horrible conceit of death and night, together with the terror of the place, as in a vault an ancient receptacle, where for these many 100 years the bones of all my buried ancestors are packed? So she starts to describe what the tomb is like where she's going to be buried. This is not a box dug 6 feet under into the ground. This is an above ground tomb that has, it's pretty big. It's like a mausoleum. It has shelves built into the walls where all of her relatives have been laid throughout the centuries, it seems like. It says many 100 years. So there are tons of her relatives who have passed on that are laying in there. And don't forget, as she mentions next, one of them was her cousin that was just killed in the streets yesterday. She says, where bloody Tybalt, yet but green in earth, lies festering in his shroud, where, as they say, at some hours in the nights spirits resort. Okay, so she's talking about ghosts at this point. At nighttime, that's when the ghosts come out. Alack, alack, it is not like that I, so early waking, what with loathsome smells and shrieks like mandrakes torn out of the earth, that living mortals hearing them run mad. The mandrakes is a little shout out to you Harry Potter fans. If you ever saw the scene where they're transferring those plants and they pick them up and the roots were those shrieking mandrakes. Well, that's what she's talking about here. She's like, at night, not only do I have to deal with the loathsome smells, the smell of rotting and decomposing flesh, but also these shrieks of these spirits as they're walking around. And that is supposedly what drives people mad. Then on line 49, she says, oh, if I wake, shall I not be distraught, environed with all these hideous fears, and madly play with my forefathers' joints, and pluck the mangled Tybalt from his shroud, and in this rage with some great kinsman's bone, as with a club, dash out my desperate brains? So now she's going off the deep end, because she realizes, what if I go mad? That's what she's explaining. What if I just go crazy? Just all these fears just make me do crazy things, like start messing with my forefathers' bones and joints and everything there, and I knock Tybalt out of his shroud, and then I grab some relative's bone, like a big leg bone or something, and just, I'm so crazy and so mad with fear that I just crush my skull with this bone. And thinking of this, she has this vision, and says, "Oh, look, methinks I see my cousin's ghost seeking out Romeo that did spit his body upon a rapier's point. Stay, Tybalt, stay." So she's got herself worked up so much that she has this vision of this ghost of Tybalt just walking around looking for Romeo. And she's even yelling at him, saying, "Don't, Tybalt, don't do it." And so she builds up this last bit of courage, and she says, "Romeo, I come, this do I drink to thee." And she takes her potion and shoots it right back, drinks it all down in one drink, falls upon her bed, and lays there. And that's how the scene ends. So go ahead and go to the day 3 exit ticket and click on that and respond to those.